you went from being the VP of fitness for UFC GYMS to being the VP of global franchise operations. And we've talked a little bit, but man, I don't know how you're doing all that. I mean, it seems kind of crazy at the moment. I want to dig down into that. But first, I just wanted to kind of go back and review a couple things. So when I first met you, you were a coach.
Yeah.
You were a coach in, was it Pacific Coast?
I think I was still West LA.
Maybe, yeah. We're going back several years. We're going back more than 10 years now.
15.
Yeah, 15-ish, yeah.
18.
Oh, stop. Stop. We don't need to go back any further than that. And this is what I remember about you, man. Like, hair on fire, right? And this is the dude we have to pull the reins back on a little bit, but he is killing it down there. And by the way, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. If you call the club, the dude's going to be there, and he's going to be hammering away. And that went from, being a coach to immediately like this dude needs to be running a club and then some clubs. And this is at a time when the company was going through some transition, I think, and the whole region was going through some transition, and we were really looking for key players to step up and take leadership roles. And leadership started with, kind of the first in, last out kind of attitude, and understanding how to be resilient and navigate through change. So, if I haven't done it already, it's probably time. And I think we've had a lot of conversations. We've had a lot of beers together and whatnot over the years too. But dude, I cannot thank you enough for the amount of effort that you put in during that time, because it inspired me during those. I mean, let's be honest, there were some rough, dark times there. But then there was, on the backside of that, there were so many good times.
So much fun.
Yeah. So maybe talk to me a little bit about, because I don't know a whole lot about this. Like, how did you get into the fitness business?
So really quick, like when you frame it that way, right? You, like something you said there, the first in, last out mentality. And again, that's how I saw a lot of other people get ahead, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do, right? Like that's how you get ahead. And we'll talk about this, I'm sure. It's having that expectation nowadays.
Oh, dude.
Well, and again, in navigating weird times that are going to require resiliency with a lot of unprecedented change going on, not within a company, but obviously companies are having to deal with it. But like that, I think that was like the foundation that I was expecting to see from people. Like, hey guys, things are going to get weird. We're not going to know what's coming next. The one thing you control is your effort. Let's go. And that's not what a lot of people signed up for, I think.
Oh, I don't think anybody, the way it was described to me, I was just having a really great conversation with a guy by the name of Adam Salcedo, and what he is he's a professional mindset coach, and he works with basically high achievers or high performers, and in a way where it's, let's figure out what it is that you need to do in order to get through this problem, in order to perform better. What are the routines that you need to establish? How do you block out the noise? How do you stay focused? And kind of one of the things he described to me is people are, for the first time in their lives, what he's recognizing are they're in a position where they have to make decisions. He didn't say this, I'm saying this. I think what we're looking at right now is and kind of how people are handling the challenges or the problems that they're faced with, whether that be it in their company, in their work, in home, in their family, situation, life, politics, relationships, all those kind of things. I think what we're suffering from as a whole, as a society, is the helicopter parent, the result of the helicopter parenting or syndrome that's kind of happened. And whether that's, what's happened in the last 20 years or 30 years, I don't really know. I don't know, but what I see is people freezing in their tracks and not being sure what to do. And that work ethic is not something that was ever instilled, and now it's being introduced to them for the first time under all the stress.
Yeah.
And you're right, they're not responding very well.
Yeah. It's out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to expect there. I think for me, it frustrated me. It still frustrates me.
I'm always caught, like, anytime a conversation goes this route, right, about like this young generation, like, I always caution myself, like, I don't want to be old man, get off my lawn. Like, I don't want to be.
I'm that guy.
These kids.
I'm that guy.
Because, I don't like. I want to say it's not generational because there's young people that I work with that they are that. Mm-hmm. So, okay, then I go like, okay, well, maybe it's not generational then. It's just, but when you zoom out, there's a smaller percentage of people that are wired that way. And it's probably just because their parents were wired that way. And so there's.
Yeah, it's just like I need to take control and I don't know how to take control. I have a decision to make and I don't know which one.
I've never been in a position where I needed to do that.
Somebody suggested this to me. Actually, it was our good buddy Stonehouse had suggested to me that he heard somebody use the phrase decision fatigue. People are fatigued from having to make decisions, and I just sat there and I just.
You mean like what am I going to post on TikTok?
Yeah, this was my point.
It's not a decision.
Like that's what life is, man. We make decisions and we move on, and they're not always going to be right decisions, but you got to make a decision. You got to move forward, and so going back to, where you started and how you started, the impact that you made on me was rooted in a very strong work ethic, also rooted in a desire to perform and to be number one, right? I want to be the best. I want to be the guy. I want to be the phone call. I don't want there to be a hesitation. If I sit down for an interview, I want to be buttoned up and basically be in a position to, when the cliched question came across the board, like, so tell us why you think you're fit for this job and why we should hire you or why we should promote you to this position. I always wanted to be in a position to stare back and go, why don't you tell me why I shouldn't? Look at that resume, record. Look at that track record, look at that performance, and why don't you convince me on why I shouldn't have this job? Again, in my head,
yeah,
right. But that's how I saw you perform, and again, that wanting to be number one and that driving through, and falling down, having to pick yourself up, but also supporting the people around you, and I just wonder where that came from, because you were new in the business at that point. I had a few more years under my belt, but it was something that stood out to me immediately. And I knew about you before I even got to Southern California, because, again, in performance, I'm measuring, who's doing what, and certainly moving into a new market. Who are my performers in this market, or who are the guys that, whether I'm competing against them or I need to support or whatever else, who are the people, and your name's popping up on the list. So I got to know these guys. I'm just curious where that came from.
Yeah. So, well, going back, right. How did I get into it? Yeah, stumbled in, right? Graduated Penn State, broadcast journalism. Got a job with ABC, Channel 9, K-Gun, Tucson, Arizona, doing reporting, doing camera work. And, I wanted to be a ESPN Sports Center anchor.
So you got the headset on?
Yeah, that's why I went to school for that. I wanted to be an ESPN Sports Center anchor.
You've arrived. We're not broadcasting sports, but you're wearing the outfit.
Here we are. Now I got the headset. Did that for a couple of months, and I was just like, this is not what I want to do.
So what was it? You're disillusioned about what the job is? Or
now at the time, like, there was some stuff that really resonated with me at the time when I was leaving. I knew, I don't want to say that I thought I knew why I was leaving. Like, I knew why I was leaving. But now with perspective, there's certainly in some of the positions that I've held, I have an appreciation for some more reasons why I left. So, like, one of the things was, it's local news, and there's some ambulance chasing. Mm-hmm. So, hey, a motorcycle crashed into the side of Mount Lemon, and they've had to shut down the road. Can you go up and get some footage? Like, right? Then I had a story that I had to cover where, this girl was coming home from, like, a church function. She's probably like 16 or 17, coming home from a church function. Bad timing. She gets to her house like right as a B&E is happening. Like, so things go wrong. She gets shot. She's killed. Oh, I'm interviewing the neighbors. I'm interviewing her friends from high school. And that's just terrible. And then the last story that I was responsible for, there was a carjacking. Basically, the kids carjacked the car for a set of rims, like at an intersection, pull the mom out of the car, jump in the car, start driving off, realize there's two kids in the backseat. They kill the two kids. Like,
this is all bad news.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and this is just weighing on me. And then, so right after we did that one, and turned out like one of the kids who stole the rims, like his mom turned him in. She saw the rims in the garage, and so like you're interviewing all these people. And Tucson's not a big town. Like you're interviewing all these people, and it just sucked. So like right on the heels of that, one of my friends from college, and I've only been, I'm out of school less than a year. One of my friends who's in her senior year at Penn State dies in a car accident. I go back for the funeral, and I just made this decision. Like I don't want to do this anymore. Like this is not what I want to do. So I quit. And I remember calling my parents to be like, "Hey, I'm quitting my job at ABC."
Right.
Like, and I credit to my parents. They're like, "Yeah, you're miserable. Like, what are you going to do?" And at the time, I was in that job does not pay well. Right. This is 2000.
You're cutting your teeth.
Yeah.
By the way.
I mean, I'm probably. I mean, I don't even know what I was. I want to say it was 15 an hour, but that was probably a lot back then. So probably not even that. Mm-hmm. But so on the side, I was bartending 2 days a week on the side.
So many trainers started in the bar or did the double.
So hustle. While I was doing that, like I was just like, I called up the bar manager and I was like, "Hey, I quit my other job. Like I'm going to start working full time." And they were like, "Dude, yeah." So then I was the bar manager, like really quickly. Did that for a while, moved out to California, was bartending, Chili's, BJ's Brewery. A girl that I was dating, her mom was part owner at a pension administration company. And so I started doing that. I started doing some pension administration stuff. She got me a job there. Good money, boring. Like just, it's terribly boring. That got me into doing some stocks and mutual fund stuff with Citi, so I was living in Brentwood, commuting to Burbank. Hated it. So again, no plan. I quit. And I'm going to the Bally in West LA when I was living in Brentwood. And there was so when I was living in Woodland Hills, I was going to the Bally in Encino. Then I moved to Brentwood, started going to the Bally in West LA. The girl at the front desk, I walk into West LA one time and I recognize the girl at the front desk from Encino. I hadn't seen her in a while. I'm like, "Ani, what are you doing? What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I got promoted. I was the assistant operations manager. I got promoted to ops manager." And I was like, I'd never thought of a gym as a business before. It's like you go in, you wreck shop, and you leave.
Right. I think that still exists.
Yeah. Wait, tell me more.
So what's your real job?
So she tells she's the ops manager, and we get to talking, and I remember like just kind of mentioning like, "Yeah, I'm looking for something to do. I don't know what I'm going to do." She introduced me to Reggie Welch, who was the fitness director at West LA at the time.
Right.
And I said in my interview, "I'm looking for something to do while I figure out what I want to do," which kids don't say that in an interview. But he hired me anyway. And and so then I started training there, and I was lucky. That gym, I mean, I think back about the coaches that were at that gym, and that gym was stacked. Mm-hmm. And weirdly, I mean, just that area, like with trainers from all different parts, like Philippe Tomaszewski, Loritz Austinson, like all these guys from France, from Switzerland, Basic Alvardashvili from Georgia, Russia. Like we had guys from everywhere.
And the neighborhood was much different then too. It was very diverse, but it was also very affluent.
Yeah.
Right. So you had some talent with some real characters.
Yes.
Right. So it was like there's a lot of persons. It'd been kind of equivalent to maybe being in New York City. Yeah. In one of the neighborhoods.
It was lightning in a bottle for sure. Yeah. And I was like, and I didn't know, I minored in kinesiology. So I was working on getting my NASM at the time, but I knew enough to just sit back and take notes. And so I'm watching these guys that are great trainers. I'm watching them work with but my business starts picking up faster than theirs. That's just gift of gab. I'm not a good trainer yet. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, "How are you getting so busy?" And I'm like, "You teach me how to train, I'll teach you how to get clients." Yeah, I love that. And so it just became like, that was the I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Reggie ends up going, I think we were grand opening Inglewood. Reggie went to Inglewood. Juan Hernandez came over. So Juan's my FD. And then it was like, "Hey, we're going to put you in charge of the weekends. You're the AFD." And then I remember getting a call from Armin, and Armin's like, "The way that we used to do things in the industry, no heads up."
Yep.
Right. Cause you don't want to tell somebody they're getting promoted, because then they'll stop selling. I get the phone call, 9:30 at night on closeout. "You report to Redondo Beach tomorrow.
Right.
You're the fitness director at Redondo. Yeah.
Yeah, and you take that job because
you don't say no. Like you. Okay.
Well, you also know what the trajectory of that is. Like back then, it's like, look, I know this is what I got to do. And by the way, the condition of the club at that time, you're not being promoted. You're not being promoted into that club because that club's doing well.
Yeah.
You're going to that club.
It's at the bottom
because it's at the bottom of the pile, and you're the best candidate based on your track record at this point, at least to their knowledge, to go
sight unseen.
And turn.
I've never seen it other than, to your point, like you had mentioned before, like looking at the DPR, right? Like that club, I think the month before their goal was probably $30,000 a month,
right.
and they had written like $7,000 the month before,
right?
But that was less than my personal,
right?
Like I was like, yeah, I can go hit that
but
goal.
It's not like you're taking clients from West LA to Redondo Beach.
No.
That's not happening. So you literally have to start from the bottom and work your way up. But you also get a clean slate.
Yeah.
Right. But you take that job.
Well, no, and literally, I remember getting there, and so I go to that gym, and I'm looking for, okay, where's the first workout pop-up box? Where's the new member list? Where are the session logs? Like, I can't find anything. Like, no wonder you guys aren't writing any revenue. And I remember calling Armin, like being like, because I think, obviously, yeah, I'm calling Armin because I think at that point
he's the area director.
Yeah, we had done the one person overseeing, which that never works. And I remember calling Juan and Lauren, and their thing. Look, Armin said, clear out any of the desks, just throw everything out. Drive back over to West LA.
Get what you need.
Photocopy everything you need. Replicate every binder that you need, and then go back over and just start from scratch. And
you're given the autonomy to do that.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the rest is history there because you weren't there very long before you got promoted.
No, there was Huntington Beach, right. And there was Long Beach.
You just could kind of go through the ranks.
Up.
That's how a lot of businesses work. Like you get on the ground floor, you do the work, you prove yourself, right? You build some relationships, you have some consistency, and when the opportunity comes, you don't balk at it, you take it. I don't care if it's going to take me an hour to commute to this particular place. Like I take this job. Flashing forward, your VP of fitness for UFC, that wasn't too long. It was just whatever in the last year before the things changed for you. But how is it different now than it was then in terms of attitude about promotion, or I guess from how do you come in on the ground? What's the attitude about coming in on the ground floor and having to do the work to get paid?
So when you've got a smaller ecosystem, you can control it, right? So like if I took like that Torrance UFC gym, when I was interviewing people to come on board, I was able to attract people that had skill sets and talent. Take a guy like Jason Pease, who I remember when he was in college at Long Beach as a trainer at the Long Beach gym, and then he went to Equinox as a manager and became a studio owner. When I was interviewing him, like I was telling him, like, you're not coming in as a manager. You're not coming in as an assistant manager. Like you're going to come in here as a coach, and you know what to do, and it'll become evident to everybody very quickly. And I'd rather, when we give you a formal title, that the response is duh about time.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Not who's this new guy that's coming in with a title, right? And so you get some people that get that. Other people want the title they want the reward before the work. And so my thing has always been come in, do the work. Like there's some things where you want to say like, hey, just because I did it this way doesn't mean it's the right way. But with stuff like that, like I stand by it. Mm-hmm. Like this is what I did. It works. It didn't just work for me. It works for other people. So this is how I want to run it.
Makes
Come
sense.
in, put your head down, and I think you create a right culture that way. And then, kind of like you were talking about, like with that experience with West LA and Redondo, the other thing that I like is when you have a program, an environment, a culture that is working the way that you want it. Like you can objectively from above detached look at it and go, this is what it's supposed to be like. Well, then when you've got other cultures that aren't going that way, extract DNA out of that one and go plug it in somewhere else. And that's how you'll spread the good stuff and fix it. I don't like, and there's exceptions to this, I don't like internally promoting from a place where the culture is like
it's broken.
If we're all sitting around like, oh man, that location, like they're always doing their own thing. It's always a pain. Nobody wants to go there because it's just a headache, but we've got bigger fish to fry. And then like the GM or the FD or somebody leaves and quits. Well, take that as an opportunity to select somebody from somewhere else and put them over there, not promote from within, because what you're doing is you're
perpetuating the problem.
You're unintentionally saying, hey, what was happening in this place is okay. And now you've emboldened it. Now the challenge, and again, I don't want to be old man, get off my lawn. Getting people to just pick up and go somewhere else. Like, hey, there's an opportunity to be promoted, but you're either going to have to commute or you're going to have to break your lease and you're going to want to move closer. Like you said, like when it was...
Or it's more hours, there's less time at home.
Driving from Brentwood to Huntington Beach, it's not that far, but that's a haul.
It's a long way, man.
Right? And so, but there wasn't a question. Nobody called me and said like, hey, would you be interested in taking the Redondo location? It was tomorrow you report to.
Yeah, but there's also this, you want that job, right? Because you recognize that
was a step.
It's a step up, and it gets you closer to the next step and the next step. A bigger problem arises when people don't want the job.
And that's I'm trying to understand
which happens when you promote maybe from within and go, why do I want to be that guy? I mean, that's the fastest way to get out of this company is to take the promotion into this particular position. In this case, it's a fitness director job, but I don't want that because all those guys they've
seen it modeled.
That's where you go to die. It's like being the first round draft pick as a quarterback coming out of college. And knowing that the Cleveland Browns are going to have the first pick every year. I mean, that's where you go to die as a first-round draft pick as a quarterback in the NFL.
His career hasn't worked out the way that I hoped it would. But I remember, I think it was Teddy Bridgewater, that I think it wasn't Lamar Jackson. Was Teddy Bridgewater at Louisville before Lamar Jackson?
Man, you're the sports journalist.
I think it was Teddy Bridgewater, where I remember joking with people, like his combine and pro days went so piss poorly that I don't care to this day what anybody says. He tanked.
He threw it.
Intentionally.
Yeah, he threw it.
So that he wouldn't get drafted by the shitty team at the beginning. Like,
right. I think the bigger thing is
sidebar.
That's a problem, right? Like, because now... if you're the Browns, we're going to get the best guy in the league, but our team sucks, right? Like our best potential option, which by the way, it takes 3 years for a quarterback to kind of cut his teeth, and that's kind of the average, but and maybe that's changed. I don't know. The game's changed so much. The NFL's changed so much more. My point is you're not just going to show up and change the world. But at the same time, the culture within the team is how many Super Bowls have the Cleveland Browns ever won? Zero. Well, it's like you said, they're never going to be champions, and that's in their lineage now. We're just not champions.
You've got to be. Well, I guess it comes down to this, right? Is the person wired? There's some audacity here, and there's certainly ego, and ego is not a bad thing. There's ego, but it's the size of the ego. I think of somebody like Joe Burrow. Yeah, I'm going to go into this team that's never won anything. They've been losers for decades. I'm going to go in and change it.
Okay. Yep.
Right. And do you have the belief in yourself that your ability is good enough and big enough to change the course?